Hello, my name is Marie McDowell. I'm the founder and executive director of Keep St. Pete Lit. We are a literary arts organization based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And this is episode 17 of Typewriter Talks. Typewriter Talks started as a way to kind of get inside the brains of Tampa Bay writers. And today we have the wonderful Sheree Greer, who is the founder and executive director of Kitchen Table Literary Arts. And
Yes,
she
ma'am.
describes herself as a text-based artist. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. I did this creative capital training once, and part of that training we had to read our work. And so I read my work, and a lot of the folks in the audience were like, "You don't read like a writer. You have like a performative aspect." And so I had to instantly give a shout out to Second Story, which is who I credit with helping me bring that performative aspect to my reading, along with my personality. You bring it together and try to infuse a little energy into the reading. And so one of the artists there kept trying to get me to say that I was a performer, and I didn't want to say that I was a performer, and I don't know why. I still don't know why. I just didn't want to hold that title, I guess. And so then fast forward to AWP when it was here in Tampa, and I met this poet, Astraea Renee, and I was telling her about that experience at Creative Capital, and she was like, "Well, call yourself an artist." And I was like, "Yeah, but when you say artist, people think you paint or sculpt or, draw. And I mean, I doodle, but I don't do, what I'm saying? I don't paint. So she's like, "I call myself a text-based artist." And I was like, "I like that." I was like, "You tell me more about that." And so Anastasia was really like, you are a writer, but if you are endeavoring to play with form, play with structure, play with how you read the work, play with how it's presented on the page, experiment with mixing genre, bending rules and things like that. She's like, that's a really artistic approach. And you do that with text, you do that with words. And so that became like a kind of wraparound. I tried it on, and I like how it fits.
That is perfectly timed for what I'm kind of going through with myself as a poet, realizing that 15 years in, I never really actively have been sending my work out, but I've created this huge portfolio of performances with my poetry's been in movies, dance movies, and performed in, I've had it hanging in the Museum of Fine Arts. I've created this entire kind of resume as a performance poet. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ride this wave and kind of consciously think about what does that look like? And all of a sudden I have all these ideas that are just like, and I'm like, this suits me, thinking of a prose poem, but how would it become like a stage production in that way? So I'm really excited about that. So when I saw
walk into that.
I know, because I'm like the whole sending stuff out, and I just didn't feel like my work fit. I'm still doing book forms, but it's with the performative element really appeals to me. So perfectly timed.
Play with those titles, play with those categories, mix and match, and go where the work is taking you instead of trying to force it into boxes. Just go with it.
So tell us about Kitchen Table.
So Kitchen Table is a literary arts organization that started in 2014. I basically founded it with the idea that the people you are looking for are also looking for you. And so I was looking for Black women writers. I was looking for other Black women writers to be plain about it. I was already kind of in the writer scene. I've known you a long time. Keep St. Pete Lit. Tiffany Rosano with Wordier Than Now. Running my own open mic for, I think, Oral Fixation was a LGBTQ open mic over here in Tampa for like, I think like 5 or 6 years I was doing that with Adrian was helping me toward the latter end. And I was like, I know we out here, but are we doing like writerly stuff? And so what's interesting is I feel like Kitchen Table, like the germ of it started with a Yahoo group. I remember I had this old Yahoo group, I think it was just Black lesbian writers. And so some people would come to my house and we would write together for hours. And so just recently I've been thinking about just sort of the momentum of Kitchen Table and how it built up, I guess. And so I think about all those like starts and stops. And so when we officially started in 2014, the vision was clear. How can we support and showcase Black women and women of color writers? And got an awesome team. Slam Anderson, who is an amazing poet, lots of energy, lots of vision, just a really excellent human being. And then Jasmine Smith, our financial director, who kind of, makes sure we turn in our receipts and stuff like that, and does all the budgeting stuff to bring our dreams down to earth. And we've recently sort of, kind of flexed out. Silk Jasmine Hindus, excellent writer, has joined our team, and Adrian Julius kind of just made it a little bit more formal. And so, I mean, we do events that center Black women and women of color voices, whether that's our short story club, Sips and Stories, or our book clubs, or always reading work by Black women and women of color writers. And then even our online creative writing society, which is exclusively for Black women and women of color writers, and our online classes. And then also just free and open to the public workshops and reading series and things like that. And just through those collaborations, trying to, I think just beef up the resume of the literati in Tampa Bay. I think we can all kind of just, you know what I'm saying? Just like pump it up. So.
And tell us about the name, where the name Kitchen Table came from.
So Kitchen Table is actually, we're paying homage to Kitchen Table Press, which was founded in 1980 by Barbara Smith, Sheree, and Audre Lorde. And it was really just, no one was publishing Black women and women of color writers. And so the press was formed to do it. Again, if you want something in the world and you don't find it, you got to create it. And so they started this press, and it's sort of with that legacy in mind that we chose the name, because at the kind of core of our work is how can we help amplify Black women writers and women of color writers, help them get their work out into the world, help them work on craft, help them learn about the business of publishing, help sort of foster this idea of community so that they don't feel alone, and that they don't feel like, you're kind of sending your work out into oblivion. So, so we kind of, I hope that we are doing the name proud. And I think of those women, and I think of that press every time we do something, and kind of try to infuse that spirit into our work.
So you also are a full-time teacher. So what is your writing process? How do you fit writing in with being a full-time teacher and running a nonprofit and having a family? You're married, and how do you fit all that in?
I just thought, do you remember that Michael Keaton movie where he clones himself? Did you ever see that movie?
I don't have Mr. Mom in my head. And I just watched Mr. Mom not that long ago.
Really? I love that movie. That's why
You know, he was 30 years old, and he was like 32, and she was 36 in that movie. And I still watch it, and I think they're my parents. Even now, 32. Because when I watch movies, I always look and see how old they were.
Yeah.
32 and 36.
Oh my God.
But go ahead, clone yourself.
No, well, I fell in love with Michael Keaton from Mr. Mom. That's it.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
So
so great.
I can't remember the name of the movie. I think it's Multiplicity.
Yes.
Yeah, where he clones himself. I wish I could do that. All of that was just to say I wish I could do that. But I can't. So during I'm a very disciplined person by nature. Mm-hmm. And I've really been trying to embrace that.
Yeah.
Instead of, because it can also go too far and make you inflexible. Mm-hmm. And make you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Yeah. So I've been trying to really just find a balance for it, but not completely turn away from it, because it's actually a helpful skill. And it's how I've been able to do so much in the amount of time that I've done it. First thing is just always remembering that I'm not alone. I'm not by myself. And so a lot of the things that are able to get accomplished is because I have wonderful people around me to help. Mm-hmm. So Kitchen Table could not be doing the things it does if we didn't have a team of folks committed to doing the work, mm-hmm. and then a community of folks who support the work.
Yeah.
For my writing though, my writing process, it suffered a lot because I wasn't always sure where to put it. And then if I don't write for a while, I get really crabby.
Oh yeah.
So,
no, I'm talking about myself. I'm not saying yes, you do. I've heard on the street. No, I just went through that too. Like,
yes, like I get.
You're really.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. I was probably like last year was tough with my health stuff, but even that previous year, I really was just out of balance. So I think I was walking around just being an asshole. And my wife, she goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she was like, you need to write or something. Have you been writing? And so I was like, "Oh, right, true." Mm-hmm. So during the semester, I write on Fridays. I used to call them Fiction Fridays because I was writing novels. But now I'm writing memoir and nonfiction. So I guess I can call it Nonfiction Fridays. So Fridays I devote to writing almost entirely. Mm-hmm. And since I've been fortunate enough to be full-time faculty at the college, I've been able to have a really sweet schedule that can fit my life. And so most days I'll have heavier teaching days and lighter teaching days. And on the lighter teaching days, I take a break in the middle of the day, and then I'll write for 4 or 5 hours in the evening until Jasmine comes home, gets off work, and then it's family time. So I think it's just all about finding balance and then also having the discipline to say, like, these are the things I'm going to do, but also being flexible enough that if the day is different than you anticipated or something comes up, being kind to yourself when you got to make changes.
Yeah. So what are some of your major themes?
For this new work?
I don't know, in general?
In general?
Or what are you, yeah.
Snaps. We got to rewind.
Okay.
Got to run it back. Also, I've been waiting to talk to you and see your face so I could tell you that deep work recommendation.
Oh, that book is
changed my damn life. Let me tell you. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
That book is
I got that, and then I got his other, the digital minimalism. I got that one and I read that one too. But that deep work book, so thank you for that.
I just had to do a social media. I was waking up and going right on social media.
Me too.
And then I was getting evil because I wasn't writing, and I was
your whole day.
And I'm such an empath. In addition to we're in COVID and we have our presidency, and the the Black Lives Matters movement, which isn't new, but I'm so empathetic, and I have a lot of Black friends, and I work with communities, and I just was flooded.
Yeah.
And then go on social media and be crying over somebody I don't even know's uncle's dog died.
Yeah.
Writing. So I said, wake up in the morning, meditate for 10 minutes, do not get on social media until after I write or get to the pool. And I'm like writing poetry like crazy. It's like all of a sudden I'm reborn, because I was putting all that energy into other people's that I don't even know's life. Yeah.
At the start of the day, and starting your day like that.
Starting my day.
Starting your day with Twitter headlines of the world being on fire. And it's like, did you think you're going to have a productive, good day after that? No.
Yeah. And then feeling like you're not doing enough. And I'm like, okay, Maureen, one thing a day. Like you focus on one thing a day and how you can help. And sometimes that's just the act of writing, being an art activist.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also doing stuff with Keep St. Pete Lit, like getting books to kids that need them. Sometimes I'm doing 3 or 4 things a day, and I was just feeling like I wasn't doing enough. I've been unhappy. Like I have friends that are like, you're not happy. And it's social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you don't even realize it. But so deep, that was a big ramble, but yeah.
No, it's neat. People need to hear about it. People need to read that book and also understand that social media affects your mood and your productivity and your feelings of self-worth and like all these other things that you're not actively thinking about while you scroll. And then you wonder why you're depressed, or why you think all your work sounds like shit, or why, these people are getting it, stuff is happening for these people, but it's not happening, like all sorts of stuff. And it's just like, take a break.
Yeah.
Go into the work that feeds you, makes you feel good. So shouts out to you for recommending that book to me.
Oh yeah,
I'm telling you, I got it that weekend.
Yeah,
that weekend.
That's awesome. I'm always looking for stuff that kind of helps you improve yourself.
That book
or
was
let
awesome.
go. That's a big one. Not even about improving yourself. Let go of stuff you've taken on.
Yeah.
Just to get clear.
So
back to your major themes. Some of your major themes. No, you're all good. It's all good.
So, my major themes, I feel like they are always that my work just continues to be about whatever questions I'm asking of the world and myself. And most of those questions have to do with intersecting identities, intersectionality, as Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw calls it, and how that shows itself in my perception of the world and the way I walk and experience in the world, and how other people also experience the world, and how they view themselves and how they view me, and how we just interact with each other, right? So a lot about class and sexuality and race and gender. My first novel was about alcoholism and death. So, light beach reading, basically.
Pat Conroy has The Prince of Tides, not to be considered beach reading. So,
My second novel, A Return to Arms, is based in St. Pete, loosely based on the police shooting of Tyron Lewis. So that was a very Black Lives Matter inspired book. And then my work right now, interestingly enough, draws back to my first novel, where I was hiding myself in the protagonist. And I realized it while I was writing that novel, but I didn't tell anybody, because that would mean telling people that I had an alcohol problem, that I was battling alcoholism and alcohol abuse. And so for this book, I am really digging into that space.
Yeah.
And dealing with alcoholism, alcohol abuse, addiction, forgiveness, self-love, therapy, And, you know, just trying to find your way through by being honest and being vulnerable. And it's serving the work well. I feel like this might be some of the strongest work I've ever done. And I'm feeling the strongest I've ever felt, even as an artist. And that's got to mean something. And it also means something because this was the work I was most afraid of.
Yeah.
And so I had this quote on my desk, Ralph Waldo Emerson, what you are afraid to do is a clear indication of the next thing you need to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you're scared of it, walk into that fear and see what's there. So that's where
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do you think I mean, do you think that comes with age a bit too? Like I don't know. I'm 45 and I just feel like I'm excited for like the next 20 years. Like the kid's grown up almost, and like I feel like I can kind of really dive into some topics that
I do.
You know, I don't know.
I do. I think it does. I think it comes with age, and it comes with this particular age. Like there's something about, and I'll be 40 next it's not August yet. I'll be 40 in September.
Okay.
And it was funny, I was telling my sister, because like everybody in my age group, in my peer group, is like, you know, going vegan and working out and doing yoga and, you know, meditating and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, that's not really.
I saw your guns on Instagram.
Oh yeah, it's for real, right? So it's like, it's not from any like grand sense of awakening or enlightenment or like it's turning 40. Like you're turning 40. Your doctor has said your blood pressure's high.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to do something about it. Or you don't have the same. I mean, I know some people that still put they drink, like can go hard on the drinks, but the snapback ain't the same. You're not drinking all night and getting up in the morning and doing what you need to do. So it's like, it's not, I don't feel like it's a special thing. I feel like it's a part of growing older, and you do slow down and you do start thinking about your mortality, and you do start thinking about the decisions you made in your 30s and 20s that got you to where you are. And if you're in a place where you feel safe and you feel safe to be vulnerable, then I think you really can dig into, you know, some of your missteps and some of the things you've learned, and say to yourself, particularly if you're a writer, like we are, part of our work is taking that inward and turning it outward. And so I feel like, you know, in that way, I feel like maybe like we're right on time for some shit. I don't know, but it doesn't feel, it feels like this is like some sort of natural progression of the work, perhaps. I don't know. But I am also working on a horror story. So I don't know, man. Just, I don't know.
You mentioned it. It's whatever questions you have, or where, you know, you let your curiosity lead you. You know, and the same reason you started Kitchen Table Literary Arts, you wanted, you know, you wanted to see other women writers that look like you. And and so it's the same thing with your writing. Like if it interests you, more likely than not, it's going to interest somebody else, and they're at the same space, or even if they're not in the same space, they're going to be asking the same questions. And that's what's cool about literature, where you pick up a book, like, was this written for me? This was written for me.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So what would be your advice you'd give your younger writer self?
That's a tough one, because that's a tough one, because writing is this is my second career. My first career was, I was a business analyst for Accenture, this tech company. And I went to college, I went to undergrad, and majored in IT and HR. And so I minored in English, right? And so some days I'm like, man, if I would have just majored in English and did what I wanted to do, I think about how many books I could have written by now, all these other things. But in that same moment, I'll be instantly reminded about the skills I gained in business school and in those technology classes that helped me do things like not have to pay somebody to do Kitchen Table's website or my own website.
Yeah.
About knowing how to put together a business plan, knowing how to put together a marketing plan for myself and for the organization. And so I wouldn't have those skills if it had not been for that initial detour. So yeah, so when I think about my younger writing self, I think I would take her by the shoulders and look deeply into her eyes and say, first, you are very cute. And then I would say, this writing thing is not a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It is your thing.
It's your thing.
Go all in.
Yeah.
Write it. Just go all in. That's what I would say. Go all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took an English class where I wrote 5 poems when I was 20, when I was in college for 1 year in North Carolina. And if I'd come back the next year, because it was a private school and it was too expensive for my mom to continue sending me there, I was going to major in English. And then I went through this whole 20s track of like studying pottery and didn't like actually. I know, and I was writing words on all my pots. I don't understand color. Like it was brown everywhere, and I love black. Like it was very. Yeah. But then it was like I realized though that it kind of because I was so out there as an artist with pottery, I learned how to be more guarded with my own writing. I was able to kind of make all the artistic mistakes as a potter instead of doing that with my writing. So I felt like I could, it was safe. I'm grateful that, but it's funny because I remember writing those 5 poems and I go, I can get all this out on 1 page. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I could write this experience on 1 page because I'm so intense. I'm like, get to the point. And that's why poetry is just like my thing.
I wrote a book during my internship when I was in college. I had an internship in the IT department of Wisconsin Electric. And the work, I think, I don't know if they thought maybe I couldn't do the work. Whatever it was, they underestimated me. And so they would give me the projects and I would knock them out in like a couple hours. And then I'd have 6 more hours of work left. And so I started writing a book. And so I wrote this really shitty thriller about this like murderous rogue computer program that like hypnotized people. And it's very strange. But it was like, I want to say like 200 pages or something that I wrote in a summer. And I'm like, normal people don't do that.
We are not normal.
People just don't write books that no one asked for. Like,
100 pages.
And so it was like, I finished it and I was proud of it. And I was doing revisions and all this stuff on Saturdays. And it's like, I was like 19 and 20.
Wow.
Writing a book. And now I've like struggled to get my word count sometimes. So, but yeah, I don't know. I would definitely go back and say, go all in.
Yeah, you're cute. I like that. That's how I talk about myself in front of my daughter. Like, I'm good. I never talk negative about myself. Well, I try not to, in general, but especially around my young.
Yeah.
I made a very conscious, decision to.
It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
Because I'm working to move away from negative self-talk.
Start saying that again. You're cute.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a two-part question. What are you reading right now? And also, who are some of your favorite authors?
Ooh. So I just finished In the Dream House, which is a memoir by Carmen Maria Machado. And it was, I can't get that book out of my head. Like,
I'm going to put it on my list.
I've never read a memoir like that before. And I've been reading more memoir, particularly from writers who I believe are bold and taking chances, you know? So I reread Kiese Layman's Heavy, which is also another kick-ass memoir. What else? I've been reading some poetry. So I've read Donna Smith's Homie. I just read that. And then a friend of mine, and then I bought this book, Women Who Run with Wolves.
Oh my, you've never read that?
I had never read this before. I didn't even know that I had it, and I didn't remember why I bought it. And I bought it recently from Karis in Atlanta. And I was like, I don't know. So I got it. And then it was so wild because one of my dearest friends who lives in Chicago, she sent me this thing. It's by this writer, Isabella Rotman. And it's like a comic almost. And it's called Run With Your Demons. And it's all about wolves in your inner. So it's like, there's a message here that I'm supposed to get. So I'm here for it. Yeah,
that book and Mists of Avalon made me like grab onto my feminine side and be like, oh, there's so much. This is so juicy.
Yeah, let's go.
Very neglected in our external masculine active world, that kind of intuitive, primal, female. And it's not even about gender. It's just, to me, it's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, it's just the type of
yang. And that's why I think COVID has been so valuable, because people have had this time to go inward.
They've had to.
I know a lot of people that are changing their whole career. So like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much. I'm burned out. I've been miserable. I'm sick.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time for that feminine yin energy. But it's also like, it's not it's passionate. There's so much. Oh, good for you. So, two more questions, and then we're going to have you read your work. And I had a feeling we would have quite a conversation. Where do you go for information or inspiration if you get blocked?
Inspiration.
Or maybe you don't get blocked.
Outside. Oh, I get blocked. I go outside.
Yeah.
I'll go for a walk. I'll sit on my porch. I'll just go stand in the grass, kind of ground myself a little bit and see if I can channel something.
Yeah.
And I go to music. I go outside and I go to music. So my mom finally let me have her record collection.
Oh, cool.
A couple years ago. So I've been adding to it, and also kind of getting to know her a little bit by seeing the records that she held near and dear. But music and outside usually get me out of my funk.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing too. So what would be your holy grail piece of writing advice?
Holy grail piece of writing advice. Trust your voice. Trust your voice. I was just talking about this morning, actually, because I'm working on the memoir stuff, and I keep, the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt shit is so real. And so I've been really trying to pick apart, like, what is at the core of that? And I feel at the core of it is distrust of your voice, where you don't think that you sound smart enough, or you don't think you sound creative enough, or you don't think the writing is at some mythical level that you've created for yourself. You're comparing your voice to someone else's.
Yeah.
And all of that is is anti-trusting your voice. And so that's something I've been trying to do more of, and really trying to dig into trusting what comes out. Yeah, trust your voice. It's yours, it's unique. It's as loud or as soft as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Just do it. Trust it.
So let's hear some of your writing.
Okay. So this is some never before heard work. I just finished this essay, and that's why I asked you if it was if we were PG-13 or whatever. The essay is called "None of This Is Bullshit," and I'm gonna read a section from it. This section is called "Blackouts Are Bullshit." In September 1998, I got blackout drunk for the first time. Even though I drank when sneaking into clubs, my older sister's ID, my passport to adventures in Bacardi Limon and Sprite, vodka cranberry, and Captain and Coke, I had never blacked out. Never drank so much I couldn't remember the night. But the weekend after my 18th birthday, my mother and the man she was seeing at the time took me out for what was to be a grown-up evening of Milwaukee nightlife. It began with a dinner cruise on the river. My mother, who didn't know I was already regularly drinking with friends, told the bartender on the Edelweiss boat that I was celebrating my 21st birthday. Because I was with two parental types, the cute little bartender didn't hesitate to keep my cup overflowing with a variety of cocktails. I don't remember what we had for dinner or what the night felt like exactly, but I can imagine a cool breeze, the lights of riverfront bars and office buildings reflecting in the ink black water mirroring the blanket of night overhead. I think there was dancing, the bartender snapping and twirling behind the bar each time I got a refill. My next memory is being carried down the stairs to my room in the basement. After yanking my shirt off and peeling my skirt down my thighs, I collapsed on the bed. The next day, my mother said I had started undressing before her friend had left the room. He had embarrassingly called out to her to come help me as he stumbled out of the room, flipping the light off so he wouldn't see anything. I spent most of the morning vomiting and trying to cobble together pieces of the night. Even though the bartender from the Edelweiss had left a message on the house phone, singing happy birthday with a show tune flair and telling me how I'm a beautiful person and a dancing queen, I still couldn't remember his face or his voice or his lips. My mother said he planted several kisses on my cheeks. Your little gay boyfriend, she called him, couldn't get enough of you. I smiled through the tellings. I pictured myself, the confident, carefree me I knew I was when I drank, dancing and flirting and throwing my head back in laughter. I told my mother I didn't remember much that happened that night, but I remember how I felt. Good. My mother made a face. I bet you don't feel good now, she said. Her plan had been to make the moment teachable, to get me so drunk that I'd get sick, so sick even that I wouldn't want to drink again. She didn't know that I was already drinking, that I had found a friend in the swirling, swaying, swimming delight of intoxication earlier than she could imagine. She wanted to know if I'd be drinking again. I know you miserable, she said, anticipating an answer that might be pledged, a response that might be promised to never drink like that again. I had a blast last night, I said. Through the blur of music and colors, winks and smiles, new people and new places, I knew that at no point in the spin of lights and sounds and touch had I been sad. I knew I hadn't thought about my promise-breaking father, nor had I felt the guilt of refusing to talk to him or see him. I knew I hadn't thought about my boyfriend's confusion when I dumped him for reasons I couldn't put into words, nor had I acknowledged the increasing demands of caregiving as my grandmother's stroke recovery stalled. I knew I hadn't thought about the challenges of my first semester as a college student, all the white students looking at me in class but ignoring me on campus, the anvil of lust and confusion and need that hovered over my head with each visit to the Black Student Union Lounge, where beautiful, smart, confident women with smoldering molasses skin in their own apartments talked about pledging and midterms and internships while smiling at me and asking me about my major. That night solidified what I knew to be true. Drinking to forget was a thing. Drinking to feel better worked. And drinking until the night blacked out meant I thought about nothing, feared nothing, needed nothing, and remembered nothing.
I have goosebumps. Oh, you perfectly summed up why you just, it was so,
Thank you.
I love how you listed all the reasons why this was your safety, this was your balm, this was your release,
Thank you.
your freedom. But then how something, oh God, you're giving me ideas for poems.
Nice.
I just
Write it.
Marie Curie and how she created, discovered plutonium and radium, and how this thing that helps people cure cancer and X-ray machines also created the atomic bomb. And it's
exactly
the same
exactly
thing with alcoholism. It'll help you. It'll help you, like, it helps you in so many ways in the beginning.
There's
then it takes you down. Yeah.
I used to be an avid Simpsons watcher. And so I'll never forget, there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer is at the bar drinking a Duff beer, of course, and he goes, alcohol, the cause and solution of all life's problems. I'll never forget that.
Sheree, it's been such a pleasure.
No, the pleasure's been all mine. Thank you so much.
Even though this online format, and I feel like I got to know you better. And thank you for the work you do, not only as a text-based artist, but also an activist and a community leader. So, and a teacher of our youth and our adult residents.
Yeah, I try to stay in good company. So it's wonderful to be in community with you. So I'm thankful.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here for Typewriter Talks. We'll be back next Tuesday. And if you want to know more about Keep St. Pete Lit, we have writing classes and poetry open mics and book clubs and all kinds of juicy things. And that's at keepstpetelit.org. And thank you, Sheree. And thank you to all of our viewers. Read and write on.
Right.
Yeah.